In 1839, a ship sailing across the Atlantic became the stage for a gripping battle for freedom. Aboard the Amistad, a group of enslaved Africans defied their captors, sparking a revolt that would lead to one of the most significant legal battles in American history. Their struggle for liberty would not only challenge the institution of slavery, but reshape the future of the United States. What happened on that ship echoes through time, challenging our understanding of justice, freedom, and humanity itself. The storm was not just of nature, but of fury. Beneath the humid, oppressive skies of the Caribbean, a violent revolt erupted aboard the Amistad. The men, shackled and beaten, had spent weeks in silence, minds seething with rage, bodies weakened by hardship. Yet in an instant, everything changed. In the heart of the night, they rose. With raw courage and a desperate will to live free, they took control of the ship. But the sea was just the beginning of their battle. What followed would shape the course of history, challenging not just the lives of those aboard, but the very idea of what it meant to be free in a nation founded on liberty. In the year 1839, a ship named Amistad set sail from Havana, Cuba, bound for the Spanish-controlled island of Puerto Príncipe. Among the passengers were 53 enslaved Africans who had been taken from their homeland, bound in chains, and forced onto this ship. But they would not remain silent for long. The Amistad revolt would be remembered not only for the bravery of the enslaved men who fought for their freedom, but also for the extraordinary legal and political battle that would follow. Why does this story still matter today? Because the Amistad Rebellion was not just about breaking chains. It was about challenging the very system of oppression that defined so much of the Atlantic world. The outcome of this revolt would touch upon questions of human rights, sovereignty, and the rule of law, issues that continue to echo in the struggles for justice in our world today. It was a moment when the idea of liberty stood against the grim reality of human trafficking and forced labor, testing a nation's moral compass. In its aftermath, the fight for freedom would be written into the history of the United States, one courtroom at a time. The Amistad was originally a Spanish slave ship. Its journey began like countless others of its kind, an odyssey of misery and suffering. On board were a group of men, women, and children, all from the Mende tribe in what is now Sierra Leone. They had been kidnapped by ruthless traders, sold to the Spanish, and forced onto the ship, hidden beneath layers of secrecy and brutality. These men, who had once known the freedom of their own land, were chained in the hold of the ship, their spirits broken by the violence of their capture. The Amistad was not their first experience of slavery, but for many, it would be their last. But the Mende were not a people willing to accept their fate without a fight. Among them was a man named Sengbe Pie, later known as Joseph Sankey. He was a leader, and when he looked at the chains that bound him, something inside him snapped. This was not the life he had known, nor the life he intended to lead on the Rezi ship. The captives were given little food, little water, and were treated as less than human. The crew was cruel, violent when they could be, indifferent when they could not. Yet even in the depths of despair, Sinke and the others began to plot. They would not be slaves forever. They would take back what was theirs, freedom. It was on the evening of July 2, 1839, that the revolt began. With the ship sailing off the coast of Cuba, Sengbe Pie, using a tool he had fashioned from a broken piece of metal, freed himself from his shackles. It was a simple yet powerful act of defiance, one that set the stage for what was to come. With incredible precision, the captives moved quietly, quickly, and methodically. They overpowered the ship's cook, killed the captain, and took control of the Amistad from the crew. However, the rebellion wasn't without its casualties. Several crew members were killed during the struggle. The enslaved Africans now controlled the ship, but they were far from free. Yet, this was not the end of the revolt. With the ship in their hands, Sinke and his fellow rebels faced a new problem. What to do next? They did not want to return to the slave trade, but needed to find a way to get home, to Africa. They navigated the ship northward, hoping that their course would eventually take them back to their homeland. But fate had other plans. The Amistad was soon spotted off the coast of Long Island, New York. The ship was captured by a U.S. naval vessel, and the men aboard were arrested. At first, the legal situation seemed clear. The enslaved men were simply property. The Spanish government demanded that they be returned to Cuba to face trial for their revolt. But the case was far from straightforward. The Amistad Rebellion would give rise to one of the most important legal battles of the 19th century. The question wasn't just about whether the Africans had the right to rebel. It was about whether the very institution of slavery could survive in a country that proclaimed its belief in freedom. The case was brought to court, and its outcome would hinge on whether the Africans aboard the Amistad were considered property or human beings with rights. The legal battle became a spectacle, one that would stretch on for years. One of the key figures in this legal battle was a former president, John Quincy Adams, who represented the Africans before the U.S. Supreme Court. Adams made a passionate argument that these men were not enslaved property, but free human beings. The case became symbolic of the larger fight against slavery, and Adams' speech before the court was one of the most eloquent denunciations of slavery in American history. In 1841, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled in favor of the Africans, declaring that they had been illegally enslaved. The men were set free, and the Amistad case became a landmark moment in the abolitionist movement. The Amistad Revolt was not just an act of rebellion. It was a powerful assertion of human dignity and the desire for freedom. The men who fought aboard the Amistad demonstrated that even in the face of overwhelming oppression, the spirit of resistance could not be extinguished. Their struggle ignited a fire that would burn for years, sparking discussions about slavery, human rights, and the very foundations of the United States identity. The Amistad case was a pivotal moment in the abolitionist movement, but it was also a reminder that the fight for freedom is often long and hard. The legal victory in 1841 did not end the practice of slavery, but it did lay the groundwork for the larger fight that would eventually lead to the Civil War and the abolition of slavery. In reflecting on the Amistad, we are reminded of the importance of standing up against injustice. Though the circumstances may change, the struggle for human dignity and equality is ever present. The bravery of the men aboard the Amistad serves as a testament to the power of resistance, and their legacy continues to inspire movements for freedom and justice across the world. If you found this story powerful, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and share this video with others who might be inspired by this incredible moment in history. We're constantly exploring forgotten stories from the past that resonate with the struggles we face today. For more stories like this, check out our other videos that delve deep into the hidden chapters of history. Remember, the past shapes our present, and together we can ensure that the voices of the past are never forgotten. Keep fighting for freedom, keep pushing for justice, and never stop learning. Until next time, stay curious, stay passionate, and never forget the chains that were broken on the journey toward liberty.